A very pleasant morning to you all, distinguished participants, and this is hoping we had a very good night rest after that robust engagement yesterday with regards to AI. And this morning, it is my humble opinion that we are fresh, ready to take in another dose of engaging session from our resource persons. A second day to conclude the ethics and sustainability of artificial intelligence in higher education, which is a 2-day program lined up by the National Open University of Nigeria, and of course in partnership with the University of Notredame. So to set the stage set and rolling, I would like to invite someone who will come straight to give us an overview of what took place yesterday and to stimulate us properly into the mood for today's engaging activity. Without any further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Helen to please come over and give us an overview of what took place yesterday, and thereafter to invite our paper presenter for this morning session, for this morning engagement. Dr. Helen, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, professors, deans, directors, our esteemed guests. You're very much welcome to day 2 of this program. So, first, yesterday we started, the Vice Chancellor concluded his speech with a story. And so today we would continue the story as well. But just as we know, we were told the story of the Piper of Hamelin, then the Idaros. Both stories were teaching morals, which is central to the discussion in this workshop, looking at the ethics and sustainability of AI in higher education. So after the Vice Chancellor's speech, we had the research dissemination proper, which is an important component of this workshop. And one of the highlights was when we talked about the findings and the key findings. Then we also made mention of the deliverables, where we talked about the impact of it, which we saw in pictorial forms. Then in addition to that, part of the deliverable of the project is a published paper already submitted, then a conference presentation later in the year, and the public voice opportunity submitted to the AI policy for Nigerian higher education that is being anchored by an institute in ABU. So having done that yesterday, we had Professor Moniz gave us his lecture, and which was titled Needs and Possibilities. And in the course of that lecture, he gave us this I find a very profound definition of intelligence by Linda Gottfriedson, and he highlighted 4 key areas of education: genetic, agriculture, and climate. Now for today, then we had these very robust discussions where we had 2 guests take questions, and we also contributed, and I'm sure you all found it enriching. For today, just a brief announcement. First, if we check our program, item number number 16, it reads engagement with senior management or AI policies, but actually it's engagement with all participants. So we are all expected to participate in this important endeavor, and the venue is where we are presently, the conference hall. Beyond that, this was mentioned in the course of the presentation yesterday by myself and Mr. Felix Olakuleyin. Can we have it? Okay. Okay, so it's already on. We mentioned this AI ethics research network, and we want to, it's one of the proceeds of the project as a way of continuing the conversation in which the objectives are written. I'm not going to roll them out again, but if we want to become a part of the network, I think we should have already picked up some bookmarks that we can scan the code there and read more about it, and also probably join if it interests us. Also, the banner, at the back, it's also scannable. It's a way of keeping the conversation going and getting more about the network. Okay, so in addition to that, this was also mentioned briefly during the presentation yesterday. The project trained higher education lecturers on AI ethics, but we also felt that it's important to have our students on board in this discussion. So the management has approved this and is going to, a 4-week online training for NOUN students. Our students that will run for 4 weeks next month. Every Saturday, we conducted a survey in which we gauge their knowledge and got the timing that it's most suitable for most of them from the survey, and it's on Saturday morning, 2 hours, 8 to 10. So we would like to enjoin you to help spread the word. There are already directorates that are involved, LSS, LCMS, and all that. We also know that in our respective capacities as faculty, we could help disseminate. There will be shareable certificates for those who deserve it, because we would also keep record the way we did with the project workshop itself. And with that, I conclude this announcement and would launch straight into today's session. I'll call on Dr. Adetola Akombiemu to come forward and read the citation of our presenter for today, and that will be it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Professor Nitesh. Chawla, please come up. Nitesh Chawla is the Frank M. Freeman Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Notredame and the founding director of the Lucy Family Institute for Data and Society. With expertise in artificial intelligence, data science, and network science, Chawla's research focuses on leveraging technology for the common good through interdisciplinary collaboration. He holds concurrent faculty appointments in the Department of Applied and Computational Mathematics and Statistics in the College of Science and the Department of Information Technology, Analytics, and Operations in the College of Business. Chawla has been inducted as a Fellow of the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, AAAI, the Association for Computing Machinery, ACM, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, and the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS. His notable awards include the IEEE CIS Outstanding Early Career Award, the IBM Watson Faculty Award, the Rodney F. Ghani Award for Community Impact, the First Source Bank Technology Commercialization Award, the Outstanding Undergraduate Teacher Award, and the National Academy of Engineering New Faculty Fellowship. Additionally, Chawla founded Analytics, a data science software and a cloud computing company. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much for the kind and generous introduction, and thank you all again for inviting Nuno and I to Nigeria and experience the beautiful Nigerian hospitality. Thank you very much. We have enjoyed every moment here. You all are wonderful, wonderful to us. So thank you. We really appreciate you and the time we have spent together. Even the discussion that we had yesterday was deeply engaging. You all have thought about these issues, and every question was thought-provoking. The questions weren't just, I need to ask because I should. They truly were thought-provoking interactions. So I do appreciate it. And I was also asked yesterday, is it my first time in Africa? And I shared with a couple of you that no, it isn't. It's the first time in Nigeria, and I hope not the last time. But I have been to the highest point of Africa a few years ago. So that's me at submitting up at Kilimanjaro, and on the picture on the left one, I submitted with my college friends. So we've been friends for 30 years, and then the colleagues sitting below were our guides for our trip. So it's my second time in Africa from the highest point to Nigeria, and it's just been a beautiful, beautiful journey. But we will be talking about how do we step up with Rise AI. But before we do that, I'd like to sort of share with you the Lucy Family Institute that I'm the director of, and Uno is a professor at the Institute, and the work that we do. And I believe, and this is where we are so excited about our work together with NOUN, our work together on the Ethics Initiative, the Ethics Research Network that Professor Helen was also talking about earlier. And as an institute, we are we take deep pride and commitment to being adventurously collaborative, because we do know that to take on big challenges that require an AI innovation, an AI solution, will have to be collaborative, will have to be across different disciplines. We will have to bring in humanities, social sciences, engineering, policy together to address some of the challenges, and that's what we are trying to do at the Lucy Family Institute. And then as well as our vision is to become that preeminent intellectual beacon where we inspire collaborative, equitable, and impactful data innovations as a global force for good. And that's what we aspire to be. So this partnership, this work that we are doing together is an extension of our mission and vision. It's what we deeply believe in. So again, we are grateful that you have allowed us into this partnership, into the space together, because there are some important concerns, especially even the problem statements that were raised through the questions about pedagogy, inclusive voice, the data that's being used. How do we teach students in this generation? And especially, I do believe NOUN is uniquely positioned as 120,000 students on online distance education learning. Which other university can talk about this scale, right? And so what kind of AI innovations can be embedded within this online space, but doing it responsibly, ethically, and inclusively, with inclusivity, I think is very important. And these are our goals. We set ourselves we went through a strategic planning session, and our goals essentially as an institute reflect on what our mission vision is, where we do want to be the epicenter on campus and otherwise, where disciplines collide. We recognize that, like at Lucy Institute, the faculty that I've recruited at the Institute, we have Nuna, who's a computer scientist. We have faculty with political science background, with policy background, with statistics background. So we have information scientists with library background. So clearly, it's an experiment in itself where a single unit, a single department has said we wouldn't care about where your PhD is, but we would care about how your work contributes to advancing the mission of the Institute. Right? So that's what we are trying to sort of go with. And we have been very clear about what our goals are. And we wake up every morning thinking about these goals, how we are marching forward, how we are advancing through them over the period of time. And just to give you a sense of how young we are as an institute, so while the University of Notredame in the USA I should have put a map over there too, because they sometimes, for Notredame, Paris. University of Notre Dame was founded in 1842. And it's University of Notre Dame du Lac. We have two beautiful lakes there. It was founded by Father Sorin, who's part of the Holy Cross Brothers. He was from France, part of the Holy Cross Brothers. So he was on a mission to create a place of learning, a place of higher education. And he established a university in 1842. So we are, almost a 200-year-old university. The institute, the Lucy Family Institute, is a teeny weeny baby that way. We were established by the generosity of a gift from Bob and Sarah Lumpkins in 2020. There were two of us, me and my executive assistant Jasmine, that some of you have interacted with. And in 4 years, we have gone from 2 to 46 faculty, staff, etc. Right? So we have really grown. We have built new research labs, built new research initiatives. We have submitted a lot of research grants. These are the kinds of research funding that we have submitted. We submitted grants worth about $190 million US, a variety of research proposals, significantly high funding rate. So we are truly demonstrating that, and we have strong educational programming at the institute that we have created, and it may be, especially our iThreads program, and I'll talk about that in a slide later, could be of interest to what you were talking about, engaging with the students and how we can sort of bring in those kinds of initiatives to student engagement and education. So we have really, in the last 4 years, and the reason that we are a bit impatient and we are going with the speed that we are, the field is changing so fast right in front of us. And if we don't act now with responsibility, with social engagement, with social responsibility rather, there would be unrepresented voices in this journey. We may actually introduce risks and safety concerns with these technologies as we deploy them. So that's where our impatience and the speed that we are moving forward comes from. And we have created multiple research labs of focus. We have an applied analytics and emerging technology lab, the data inference analytics learning lab, the civic geospatial lab, health equity data lab, human-centered responsible AI lab. And the reason we have created these labs is these labs are becoming areas of focus within the institute. Each one of these labs has a distinct purpose, but they are responding to the goals of the institute, the goals and the mission of the institute. But these labs think about them as a communities of practice, as working groups, group of faculty members, students, postdoc scholars working together on a specific dimension, a specific aspect of AI and data science within the institute. And this particular education program we are truly proud of, and this was a National Science Foundation funded program. Now we have received an endowment for this program. And what we called it as iThreads. iThreads stands for Interdisciplinary Training for Socially Engaged and Responsible Data Scientists. That's what iThreads is. And what we are sort of trying to inculcate in our students, and this is something that I encourage you to consider. We're happy to share all the curricular material, etc., for your own online education for the NOUN undergraduate programming, is the students at the breadth. We talked about it yesterday, right? Critical thinking, creativity, all of those skills become sort of the breadth of the experiences they get. That's the top of the T. At the linchpin, what they are connected by is the idea of design thinking and ethics. What design thinking here is, let's teach them to engage with the partners. Imagine that you have your students working on projects and they go work with an NGO. They go work with your health system. They go work with a corporate entity. They go work with policy. They go work with legal system within Abuja. Right? And they say, okay, what are some of the problem statements that you're working on? Understand those. Because the work it's much easier to create a solution today. It's much, much harder to define a problem statement clearly. And if we can teach our students to define a problem statement, by defining a problem statement, I mean articulating what is the need, what is the problem being solved, how do I measure success, how will I deploy this solution that I will develop, and how do I capture the data that I need? How do I bring in the stakeholder needs so they use the solution that I'm deploying? So our students go through that exercise. It's a 2-year capstone project they work on. And then they also have a training in ethics. So what we ask them to do before you do any coding, before you do any algorithm work, any data science work, write your 2 chapters of your thesis. Chapter 1, problem statement. The interviews you have done, the engagement you have done with your end customer, whatever that end customer might be, but it has to be outside of the university. You could be mentored by a university faculty. NUNO has mentored a couple of ITREDS teams. Several faculty at Notredame have mentored these ITREDS teams. So you mentor them. Then the second chapter is ethics. Think about what could go wrong if you're successful. We challenge them to think, imagine that as these technologies were being created, what if everyone had that manifesto that said, what could go wrong? What are the risks? And how we may safeguard against the risks. I'm not saying don't innovate. Innovation is what I'm saying is that responsible innovation is more important. And by responsible innovation is thinking about, let's not, we get as young students and as all of you, young youthful folks here in this room, get excited about how our innovation is going to create a new future. How often we think about the future that we would create. We are focused on creating the future. Let's think about the future, which means the impact these technologies, these innovations, along with all the positives, can have in terms of challenges and risks. So that's what these students literally go through, and then they, of course, get their data science, AI, their majors, whatever they are majoring in, all of those curriculums. So this could be an interesting way of integrating this kind of educational construct, even with a noun, if this is something of an interest or an appeal. So now moving on to sort of, we are here not to talk about Lucy Institute, but to talk about AI. Yesterday, my friend Nuno articulated the challenges of defining AI. Right? We couldn't agree on AI. He had different definitions, and he also shared this work of the German scholar who sort of annotated 400 definitions of intelligence that are published. I mean, if we can't agree on what intelligence is, we are far from AI. And if we start thinking about reasoning, I haven't seen one definition articulated about reasoning. Philosophers and cognitive scientists can't agree on what reasoning may be. Right? It's a complex construct, and yet we demand that of our machines. So then I said, all right, if Nuno has talked about what we humans have written about AI in textbooks, let me ask AI, what is AI? So I asked ChatGPT, what is AI? And this is the definition ChatGPT gave. It's a field of computer science and engineering. It's already become a bit narrow because AI did not, I think if you remember the Dartmouth, the 6-men picture that Nuno shared, or 10-men picture that Nuno shared yesterday, there was no computer science and engineering as a discipline at that time. There were neuroscientists, psychologists, philosophers. And yet, ChatGPT says it's a field only within CSE. I mean, of course, it makes me feel good. I'm a computer scientist, but hey, right? Anyway, so that's the definition of ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT 4.0. Then I asked the same thing of O1, which is higher reasoning ChatGPT, which has reasoning in it. And this O1 doesn't even mention computer science and engineering and gives me a larger formal definition. Again, this is same ChatGPT, but different trained models. One is O1, which has, so to speak, reasoning, and O is just a standard this thing. Then we asked Cloud, another AI, gave another definition of ChatGPT, of AI, I'm sorry, Cloud. So my friends, if AI can't agree on what is AI, who are we mere humans, right? So it's okay if we have 400 definitions of intelligence until the machines figure out what is intelligence. But the point of AI essentially is AI is that the way, we've been doing it, as I said in my remarks in the discussion yesterday, we've been doing AI for a long time, as we like to call machine learning. My PhD dissertation in 2002 was all on learning on extremes, size and imbalance of data. We talked about how do we develop machine learning algorithms for massive data and rare events and imbalanced data, etc. Those challenges still persist. That was AI. We had created an algorithm called SMOTE, which generated new synthetic data. Generative AI is generating new data. So 22 years later, we were doing AI then, we are doing AI now. But the key questions is that, yes, we have been able to do problem-solving abilities through algorithmic reasoning. What is algorithmic reasoning? We can leave that aside. But yes, they are problem-solving abilities wherein I can give it specified questions and tests that will solve, right? It can have pattern recognition, machine learning, but beyond that, it can do computer vision, speech recognition, autonomous decision-making, yes, perhaps it can do. But what it doesn't have is the higher order of intelligence that we think about with reasoning. How many of us are familiar with Daniel Kahneman's book on thinking fast and slow? A couple of you. So in that book, he talks about, there's a system one, system two thinking. And now we are working on another paper together with the faculty at Union College, Nuno, myself, who's also, by the way, part of this ethics network that we have built, AI ethics network that we have built. I'll get to that in a second, but in Daniel Kahneman's book, he talks about there are two systems that govern human thinking and reasoning and decisions. One is system one. System one is that suddenly you see something and there's your gut makes you take a decision very quickly. You can't quite say why, how, you just react and act and you move on. That's the intuition. System two is how many times you've been asked you have to take a decision. How many of us have said, I'll sleep over it? Have you done that? That you have taken some time and you have actually said, I'm going to sleep over it, think about it, and come back to you in a day or 2 days. Have you all experienced it? Yes? And then have you even experienced that the first point when you wanted to take a decision, you actually changed your mind after some more deep inside your soul thinking? Have you experienced that? That's a system two thinking. Now, how many times have you interacted with ChatGPT and it has said to you, good question, I'm going to sleep over it and come back to you tomorrow? Hasn't happened, has it? Right? Because these are auto-regressive models. They're going to probabilistically look at your question, probabilistically match it to their memory space of the trillion parameters, and boom, 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 start answering. Don't even pause as they're spitting out words. Right? So that is not there yet. So we are not quite there in terms of intelligence reasoning with these systems. So, and this is, and Nuno had talked about this summer, winter, etc. And this was, I thought, a very, like when he shared that picture with you, they proposed in 1956, 70 years ago, my friends, that a 10-man study, apparently only men are needed to study this back in the day, such a wrong statement to begin with, of in Dartmouth, Hanover, in 2 months, they'll solve AI. 70 years ago, 2 months, they will solve AI to do all kinds of things reserved for humans. 70 years later, we are not there yet. Forget 2 months, right? And this is the complexity challenge of AI today is the AI we are experiencing, interacting, is not necessarily doing solve kinds of problems only reserved for humans. If we arrive there, that AI will solve any and all kinds of problems only reserved for humans, that's when we have to start asking, will AI take my job away? It's not there. I'm big bullish. I'm an optimist AI person. You know, let's sort of shade our optimism by what we said we can do in 2 months, 70 years ago, and we are not quite there yet. However, why now? Why all this excitement is happening that we are seeing? There are 2 things that happened that led to the AI revolution, in my opinion. Number 1, Stanford released this ImageNet database for computer vision problems. It had nothing to do with creating deep learning or neural network architectures. It was purely an image processing computer vision problem set. This data set called ImageNet was released. And at the same time, video gamers needed more computing. So the GPUs were introduced, and NVIDIA said, I'm going to conquer the video game market. And Intel said, yeah, you do that. I'm going to focus on big data center chips. So now we had this GPUs, which were created not for AI, but to support video gamers of the world for better graphic processing abilities. And then you had the data. ImageNet is just one example. This led to deep learning algorithms. Could be not, they didn't lead to, but the data could be leveraged to build convolutional neural networks and all that jazz. And then the processing abilities to take with this data also rose. These 2 were the bottlenecks of the technology that was developed in 80s and 90s. So the neural networks that we suddenly fell in love with again over the last 10, 15, 20 years, conceptually, those algorithms are not new. But we could go back, bring them out, because suddenly we had the data and the compute to handle, to build those advanced neural network structures. That is what caused this AI revolution to accelerate in the last 10 years, that it could not accelerate in the 70 years. And we are also seeing now there's a plateau effect that will happen where all the data that could be fed to these massive neural network architectures or small distillation and things like that, we would achieve a ceiling effect on those in terms of the performance that we can get. And even with the ChatGPT, it was in 2017 that the paper was, this is sort of the ChatGPT, the Gen AI revolution that we are seeing now. Generative, look at the speed we have moved in because we had the data and the compute now. The GANs were introduced in generative adversarial networks were introduced in 2014. There was text processing architecture, BERT, which sort of reshaped language processing. And also around that time, 2017-18, Google published this paper, Attention is All You Need. That paper led to GPT-2, two models that led to OpenAI releasing those models. And very soon, within a few years, we had Llama, GPT-4 Cloud, DeepSeek. All of this has happened in 5 years. 5 years of collective innovation of of our research, of industry, of engineering, these things have sort of moved so fast. And hence I said, at the Lucy Family Institute, we are impatient because this field is moving so rapidly. And that's where the responsibility to us as educators is, as university leaders is, whether it's NOUN or Notredame. How are we preparing our students for this kind of a journey? And the future now, at least the way I would project, is not going to be simply about who can build these massive language models better, faster, cheaper, better and bigger and better. It would be cheaper and faster. And then also defining specific use cases. Every day I thank OpenAI, IBM, Google, Meta, Anthropic to investing in building these massive models. That's great. They've spent hundreds of billions of dollars to build these massive Gen AI language models. And now we have to think about how do we build these smaller models by leveraging these oracles of information and use them for a custom solution. Imagine if NOUN students and your other partners, undergrad, grad students, could be thinking about building and solving specific problems within the Nigerian context. Everything else is noise. Can we deploy these technologies at scale within the context of Nigeria to take on some of the socioeconomic challenges, problems, innovation challenges, problems? And how do we bring AI home? How do we bring AI, narrow down AI and its application? So yesterday, Nuno's talked about need versus possibility, right? And I think the other way to look about it is that I think of it as convenience versus productivity conundrum. What I mean by that is today, a lot of Gen AI that we are experiencing, and this is my biggest concern, is it's cute. It makes things for me. It helps me create marketing material, emails, proofreads. I can build agentic systems and AI to do some bookings, etc. But what does it mean? I'll share with you a few examples. So I'm not sure. I hope this video works. So that's a university campus. And what we just saw was a Grubhub. It's a robot. So you can actually open an app and I can place an order at any of the university cafeterias sitting in my office. That robot will go to that restaurant, and it's called Starship or something. And somebody from the restaurant will load up my food order into that robot and come all the way to my building. And then app will ping me, your food is here, and I go down and I pick it up. So I don't have to walk and spend 20 minutes, etc. So we have a couple of students in my lab use this. So I asked them, why do you use it? They said, I don't have to walk for 10 minutes, spend half an hour there, walk back for 20 minutes. I just place the order, it comes. It's convenient. I said, okay, so you are claiming that you save maybe an hour of your day by using this. He said, absolutely. Then I said, but is it worth the extra cost? Because you have to pay extra for this service. He said, oh no, we pool in orders. He figured out smartly. If I convince all the grad students to order together, then it's, we can put everything on the same order and the increment in cost is marginal, ignorable. Doesn't matter. I'm like, great. So I said I have 12 PhD students in the lab. The lab that I directed, the Dial Lab, Nuno is is an associate director of the lab too, so he helps mentor, advise those students. So I said, okay, so if you are doing this, there's a dozen PhD students. Let's say we're on an average, 6 of you place the order every day. 6 hours of saving. 30 hours a week. It's like one free student by just doing Grubhub. I said, I will pay for all your Grubhub orders. Can you give me a free student's work? No. Right? Were they now producing more research papers because collectively 40 hours a week were being saved? No. Because we haven't figured out how to go from convenience to productivity. We are still tapped in our own creative capacity, cognitive capacity, inductive capacity, deductive capacity. So until we figure that out, it's, as a consumer of the technology, it's convenience. But if I have to invest in using that technology, now my students are paying for it. If I were to choose to invest that everyone who orders from my lab or the institute, I will pay for the Grubhub extra service to get the bot delivered. I need to see a business outcome of it. I'm sorry if I use the word business outcome or an efficiency outcome of it. I don't see the value. So I'll say, you pay for it if you have to. I won't stop you for your own convenience. It's your choice. So now that's the question. If I, as an employer of the PhD students or staff faculty within the institute, don't see a return, I would not invest in that technology. Individually, you can use that technology. But why me as a business or as an entity invest in that technology? And similarly, OpenAI released this tool called Operator. And this tool will, it's all right, please.
Yes, my name is Hyunwoo No, and I'm a research lead of Operator in OpenAI.
And what is Operator?
Operator is a research preview of an agent that uses browsers to help users to do things. So I have a 3-year-old kid who likes pasta, so I make a linguine with clam. So I ask it to buy the groceries for it. So I will use Instacart app. And Operator can actually basically use any websites and it is not particularly optimized for Instacart. But the reason why using this app is that it provides a detailed instruction of how this website can be best utilized, just like the tutorial that human can benefit from. So I'll use Instacart tab and ask it to solve task. Could you find a recipe of linguine with clams from our recipes website and add all ingredients to the grocery cart of Instacart? I think I already have some ingredients like butter, vegetable oil, and waters, and black pepper. So you don't need to add them to the cart. So it says that I'll find a recipe and then add everything in the ingredients to the cart. And okay, it says that it'll confirm the ingredients and store with me before adding them to the cart. So let's start by finding the recipe. I'm not doing anything from now on. The Operator is just doing, and I'm just watching what it's doing. What is interesting with the Operator is that it is using browsers that are built for the human, and it is seeing the exactly same screen that I'm seeing right now, and using the keyboard typing and mouse clicking to control the browser, just like human would do. This is different from other agents that uses API or programming-based interface, which programmers might understand, but non-programmer users cannot understand really well. So Operator, because it is using this natural human interface, it's very easy to follow by just looking at what it's doing in the screen.
Can you follow its progress?
Yes. So one way to following its progress is I can zoom in to see the screen better. And Operator is powered by the text-based chain of thought reasoning. So whenever it is doing things, it says, it makes plans of how things can be done. And this can be followed through this list of the dots. And it says I found the recipe and which store would you prefer to use? So I'll ask, use Gus's. So often it asks clarifying question whenever it is needed in the process of solving the task. There are cases that operator have to make sensitive actions, like things like logging in or buying things. In this case, we built operator to be safe in this situation. So operator is designed to ask us to take control to log in by ourselves or whenever we need it.
So the point of that previous one was, of this operator thing was that, it's imagine that you are able to ask it to search for a recipe for you online, find the ingredients, gift shopping. Then you have to be comfortable that it's controlling your browser, it's controlling your login information, it has access to everything else. So those are some of the challenges as well. But again, the question with the whole, the previous OpenAI operator application was, it's convenient. What would have, like, yes, it's convenient for me to use it to discover a recipe or buy ingredients from Instacart, go to my preferred store and all of that stuff. But would I pay, how much extra am I willing to pay for that service to benefit me versus I just use it for free? So these are some of the things that matter. And yesterday we were discussing one of the problems that, somebody asked us yesterday as well, that this is another use case, that can I use Microsoft Copilot for code, right? And why I think Copilot is only gonna get stronger and is going to be a strong software partner or a coding partner. So Microsoft acquired GitHub for $7.5 billion. Now GitHub did not have a revenue model per se, right? It wasn't, its value was in all the software code that has been deposited as open source or otherwise on GitHub. Microsoft was interested in that data. So and now why that coding data is beautiful language, imagine that every software that is on GitHub today, you have stars associated, you have reputation scores of the developers. You know how many times things were pulled, how many times things were pushed into GitHub. So you have quality assessment, you have annotated data. We don't have that for human spoken language or languages of the world. This is well-defined language that must follow rules for the software to work. Must follow rules for the software to work. So this is where Copilot, etc., is going to be very compelling. But the question is that, would it replace a programmer? So yes, code is easier than English, right? In Nigeria, you speak English, and in India, we speak English, in the UK, you speak English, in the US, we speak English. But our accents, dialects, expressions are different, right? Even how we may structure sentences, grammar, is different. So English is a language, however, we have made it our own. Like in India, we say there's a thing called Hinglish, Hinglish, which basically says Hindi, English combined. So we have created and manufactured our own words that only people from India will understand. And we would say, but that's English. But no, it's actually not. Right? But that's how things are. And I believe there would be English in Nigeria as well, that there would be words that only you go, I get it, but you go, I can't use that word when I'm talking to these blokes from the US. They won't understand me, right? So we go through that, right? That's unique to every place. But with coding, this is what the C language or the Python tells me it is. I can't just make it up. Just for fun, I'm going to introduce a new function. No, I can't do it. Right? So I think so that's where. But again, the question that comes down to is, how much would it increase the productivity of a programmer? That answer isn't quite fully available to us today. And would it be helpful to non-programmers? Which means no-code applications that people who can program will interact with it as problem solvers, and it will generate code for you. So I'll share with you a few use cases on this front. So this is a function that a student in the lab was working on. His name is Grigori, and maybe it was the code that he was working on with you for your the other project. This thing is not. So as you will see that Copilot is filling up the function. So he types a function name, and you would see that it just, modify using Copilot. He's asking Copilot a question. It's integrated with this, and Copilot is writing the comments and everything else. So clearly, Copilot is saving him time. Why? Because commenting, documenting code is a good thing. It repopulates functions, it fills them up, and he's able to be a bit more efficient in using Copilot as a partner. But again, what we don't know, what does this efficiency lead him? Does it lead him to being more productive? Now, this is an interesting problem where Copilot fails. So, in the US at least, tech companies like to ask this question about advent of code problem where, they say that, you have this plutonic stone, it explodes, it multiplies, and it's an algorithmically challenging problem where you give some input, etc. So we offered this problem to Copilot where we said simply in Copilot, solve this advent of code puzzle by writing a code for it. And we gave those prompts to Copilot, and it's generating. This is not a live, but as he was interacting, we were recording his screen and just letting the code be generated. So what you're seeing is that this is a complex algorithmic problem where these plutonic stones explode and they multiply, and there's a certain order they must follow, and we have to be able to do them in computationally solvable time. And over there, it's basically the no-code rule where where the student is explaining to Copilot what it should do, gives the input or the order, and the Copilot has itself generated this code without any human intervention. Copilot has generated this code. Now he's going to execute this code, provide the input, and we wait for the output. And we wait. And we wait. We will keep waiting. That's the point. The challenge is that with the previous demo, what Copilot generated a correct software program. However, algorithm it designed was computationally prohibitive, exponential. So it would take forever to run the code. Code is correct. But solving the problem in the code is not efficiently done from a computer science algorithms perspective. So that tells you where, and then my student uses Copilot he designs the algorithm, he uses, anyway, the demo didn't work over there. He uses the code. So the key thing is human, at least today, and this experiment we did only a couple of weeks ago. So today, human in the loop is essential. Because once my student interacted and said to Copilot, I will give you how the algorithm should be. You help me write my code so I can do it faster. And then he was able to solve this puzzle and achieve the answers very quickly, right? So human in the loop is essential. We need to modify and edit, need to approve. So the question that was asked yesterday, will AI replace my job? No, but a human using AI will replace if you're not using AI. That would happen. So how do we sort of, and that's the point that we were talking about, our pedagogical classroom engagement, student engagement experiences yesterday. Instead of fighting these AI tools, let's think about how we use them so we equip our students to be better qualified, to be ready for the new wave. Because all you have to ask yourself is, in 4 years, we have seen $1 trillion worth of economy being created, or estimates being created in 4 years. What the next 4 years will bring, and how our graduates are going to be A, innovators in creating those 4 years, and B, the users of 4 years. So I'll share with you, in the interest of time, some of the other examples from a lab where we think about the problem statements. So this was a project that we were working with folks in country of Colombia, where, as you all may know, the Colombian armed conflict has been the most prolonged and complex in modern history, right? About 450,000 people have lost their lives. 500,000 people, population. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced. So there was this Truth Commission that was launched within Colombia, where they interviewed stories, narratives, videos of the population at large. And President of Colombia, Santos, at that time, even received the Nobel Peace Prize for his work in achieving the peace accord. And as part of that peace accord, one of the things was, we'll create a Truth Commission that will bring in the stories of humanity, of what their lives were, the challenges were. So we then that data center, that data was going to be shut off. So we, went to Colombia, worked with them to bring that data over that, and we assured them we will save it, we would secure it, and we will make it thrive at Notredame. So this data is not even in Colombia anymore, because they had to, per the law, they had to, after a period of time, the Truth Commission was sunset, the process, and as a result, all the data, software, and everybody had to be sunsetted along with it. So we were, within the last week of its sunset, we were able to build those partnerships, secure the data, and help manage it, develop agreements with the Colombian government and things like that. But now we are managing it at Lucy Family Institute. And the question that we asked ourselves from a research perspective is, how can we make the Colombian Truth Commission archives more accessible and navigable for researchers and the public? Because history is in these archives. It's stories about people, about their pains, about their sufferings, about their experiences. And if we can understand this aspect of humanity through war, through peace, maybe we can apply those lessons to other regions in the world as well. They are stories. And as individuals, that's, in my opinion at least, doesn't matter the countries or the languages we are from. Our stories and our experiences shape us, and we share that thread about the pain we may feel during a war or a peace, and our embrace of peace. And even when there's a peace, there's a sense of, some injustice done to me. Right? That's why these peace accords become challenging, is someone often feels that something was unjust to me. Right? Because there's a negotiated agreement. Right? So I may have seen my family member being killed by someone, and I want them to be punished, but as part of the peace accord, there are pardons that may be introduced, forgiveness that may be introduced. So these are complex human aspects. So what can AI do to help us launch it, process it, etc.? So there's another student of ours, and this is the kind of data we have. There are these books and lots of videos and lots of modalities of data. So this is the data kind of a challenge we had. 2,300 interviews with 9,000 people and farmers and victims and social leaders, women, combatants, LGBT community, so public security figures, religious figures. These interviews are either audio, text, or video. And we had to figure out how do we put all of this data together into a language model. So again, what we built was a specific language model for the Colombian context. We didn't build a large, massive language model that required hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. No. Millions of dollars. No. Tens of thousands of dollars. Maybe. Student time included, right? PhD trainee time included. So we were able to build a custom model for understanding and navigating the Colombian peace archives. So that's what I'm trying to ask you is, are there such data within the Nigerian context? And you may go, we have been sitting on this data. Whatever that scope and purpose may be, can we build these customized models for that context? And this is the sort of, this is an interaction. And what you would see is that by building a custom data, this is Ventana a la Verdad on the left-hand side window. My left is the system that we have developed. On the right is ChatGPT. So the same question was asked of ChatGPT, GPT-4o on the right. This was asked maybe a couple of weeks ago. So it's current. And on the left is what we asked our chatbot. And if you see the level of detail on the, on the right of the screen. On the right of the screen is our chatbot. This is ChatGPT, which is the public. I guess the left is ChatGPT, the right is our system. And if you look at the differences in the answers, like the question that was asked was, tell us that, about some of the experiences, etc. And it gives you very specific answers. Our chatbot gives you very specific answers about experiences of the LGBT communities and the other things, where some of the challenges were, versus ChatGPT gives you a very general answer. The reason is ChatGPT doesn't have access to that specific data that we do. And if you're looking for correct answers, your ChatGPT 4o, 01, Llama, whatever you may want to use, will not give it because you haven't customized it to your context. All our data, by the way, is in Spanish. We are translating it at the back end. We are converting it. We are learning a language model. We are customizing the language model. We are doing knowledge distillation and arriving at much better, more complete answers. So if you were to give your students a homework about Colombian peace process and the student uses ChatGPT on the left, that's the answer you would get from that student. And the student who reads these archives and understands the Colombian peace process will give you the answer on the right window. And that's the pedagogical exercise we can do. Same question, you will give maybe a C grade for the answer by ChatGPT because it's not precise enough. But the student who went through the process of learning the context, the specific information about the Colombian peace process will give you a much better answer, and you'll give that student an A grade. That's the difference. And the system works. We can ask the same question in Spanish. We can ask the same question in English. We get the similar kinds of answers. So the system that my student has developed on this project is basically agnostic to it. And this is, a work that another colleague of ours, Matt Sisk, Nuno is involved, Matt Sisk is involved, Josefina from the Koch Institute of Peace Studies is involved. We have collaborators in Colombia involved. This has been ongoing for now about 2 years, 3 years. As I said in the mission of the Institute, we are adventurously collaborative. Literally, we came across this challenge and we flew to Bogota. And within the week of that system shutting down, we negotiated, we figured out how the data could move, how we could curate it. And then we even hosted President Santos at Notredame later. And it's been a delightful collaboration. And I don't speak any Spanish, right? So we have great collaborations in a lot of Latin American countries. So, there's different examples for it. So the key thing that, as I like to say, is that we need to think big and act fast. And how do we get there, right? That sort of is the motto. And I'll share with you another example of this work that we are doing in Mexico. So this is a largest pediatric cancer hospital in Mexico. Even now, they have paper-based records. So let me ask you this, the health systems in Nigeria, is it all paper-based or you have electronic medical records everywhere? Both. And it's a complexity because the data allows you to do research about clinical conditions and risks. If that's sitting in paper archives, you haven't unlocked it. Same challenge was with this hospital. And the reason that we started working with this hospital was I was in Mexico City for another project. And this is 4 or 5 years of collaboration, blood, sweat, tears. It is deeply meaningful as a project to me as well. We saw women and children waiting outside the hospital, trying to get care, attention. And it's a very dangerous street as well in Mexico City. There's a risk of, of harm to them, etc. And so it bothered me, and I asked the hospital, why are they sitting outside? And we have been working with them. This is the hospital in Mexico City with our team. And we have built a large language model wherein we are able to get all the data. We have digitized every paper-based record, by the way. We scanned it, we OCR'd it, we transcribed it, we translated it, we structured it. Why translation? Well, for the work that we are doing for our research purposes. Secondly, we created a mobile app where we gave it to every hospital, and we said, the paper-based form is now as a digital application, just enter information on this. So now their data is digitized. Third, we worked with the families and the social workers to understand what are the social determinants affecting that family. What are the socioeconomic conditions? Can the caregiver, which mostly is the mother or the grandma or the aunt in these situations, is there risk? Is there violence? Are there other social conditions? Is there an ability for the caregiver to provide care to the child who's suffering from cancer? Understanding all of the community, is there a health system there? Having that knowledge is important. Why? Because one is my clinical risk. But that clinical risk has to also be weighed by my social risk. If I'm sent back to my community with this violence, malnutrition, and other things, and I don't have a local health system, I may damage the child, even if the clinical risk is low. So I have to take care of the child, maybe ask the child to be in a shelter or another health system, maybe not in the pediatric cancer health system. So all of these decisions could be taken. And then we have also asked the mothers to send us to take the app home. We are building an application where they can call, because we were trying to get them to type. We said that's stupid because there's low literacy as well. And then it's painful. We said just pick up the phone, talk your heart out, whatever you're observing your child. And we will transcribe it, translate it, etc. So we have now built this system, building this system and deploying it within Mexico. And there's about 500 families we are enrolling as we speak as part of this study. So even if this project started 4 years ago, finally we are seeing an implementation for translational success. So the other point, the lesson here that I'm sharing with you is some of these things take a long time because you have to navigate the local system, don't give up, but start now. Yeah, right? As universities, as educators, as researchers, it's also our responsibility to think about these big problems which may not lead to a paper today, which may not lead to a paper tomorrow, but it'll lead to a paper day after tomorrow. Now the study that we are doing, no other study has been done at the scale and the longitudinality like this. No other study has data like this. No other study has number of enrollees like this. And now when we get out these papers, they would be revolutionizing this space. It's taken us 4 or 5 years to get here. Right? So persistence and patience is very important. Something else that we are doing as convergence and translation is a work for the chemistry AI Center, where we are trying to change the way chemistry is done. We are revolutionizing, creating a field of data chemistry. It's again an adventurously collaborative project that we are leading at the University of Notredame. And then we have collaborators from all over the country, and we're trying to solve very hard problem in sciences. So the 3 use cases or 4 use cases that are shared from my lab essentially took us on a journey from understanding peace processes, political systems, war, humanities data about humanity. We looked at how AI can be used for healthcare transformation. And now in this project, we are seeing how AI can be used for transforming science, for transforming chemistry as a discipline. So I want you to take your pick. Would you like to define, develop, use AI for healthcare in Nigeria, for science innovations, drug discovery in Nigeria, or for if there's a socio-political economic structures that as a country you have been through and you want to make that data available, tap into that data for broader education and community. And things are getting cheaper, right? Yes, before it was, I need to invest hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, in the US, earlier in the presidency, it was announced that $500 billion, and then DeepSeek comes out and says, I did for $7 million. Right? Things are going to get cheaper. They have to. Things are going to get more accessible. And the challenge, and what I love about this is, how do we do more with less? And that's the opportunity that we as a collective have. And finally, I want to share with you this conference on Rise AI that we are doing at Notredame. And what we mean by Rise is, R is for responsible. And because responsibility for AI is on a spectrum, responsibility around data. Somebody had asked that question about data privacy and everything else. Responsibility around the people who are developing the algorithm, and responsibility for people who are using the algorithm. So that's the R part. Second is inclusive. Inclusive. Hello. All right. So today, a lot of data that has gone into training these language models is not inclusive of all the voices. It's not inclusive of, I shared the example yesterday about that woman in Swahili talking about a baby but being misunderstood. So how do we sort of bring a more inclusion into our development of the algorithms, into the kinds of data that we may use? Safe is about, does the system behave as I expect it to? Because the system has to be predictable. Today, if I tell you, we are driving in cars and airplanes and everything else, hey, it's random. Today, ChatGPT gives you answers. It's different answer, right? Because it's probabilistic. I'll tell you, hey, get in the car, but it's probabilistic. You may or you may not get to your destination. Let's have fun with you today. You wouldn't sit in the damn car. You'll walk for 50 kilometers, right? You'll stop flying if somebody tells you it's not a predictable system. It's supposed to behave in this way under these conditions. We haven't been able to articulate that about all our AI systems today. And yet we want to embrace it for everything. Right? So that safe becomes important. E is ethical, right? That's why we are here. How do we build these systems? And ethics is a very complex concept, because at the end of the day, whose ethics are we talking about? Right? Ethics are different. Yes, but maybe it's virtues, maybe it's principles that these systems must have. Right? How do we incorporate it? So that's why I encourage you all to come to Notredame in October for the Rise AI conference that we are trying to create. I have the web link up. You can look it up, and we would also encourage your students to submit abstracts, and if they are selected, we may be able to offer for students certain financial support for them to be able to come. Right, so we are working on creating those scholarship opportunities for students to have some support to attend the conference, but they have to submit an abstract, they have to go through the application process, and they'll be able to then sort of partake. We would love to see you. We would love to have your voice at our conference. So consider this as an invitation to join us, because only then we can do Rise AI. We can't do Rise AI without your presence. So join us, help us be adventurously collaborative, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Nitesh Chawla, Director, Lucy Family Institute, University of Notredame. You've done justice again. I want to express myself the way I felt when I started listening to you, digesting all you were delivering here, that you left some part reserved for today. All the while we were talking yesterday, you had some special reservations for today, and today you decided to come all out. So today you were more expository. You were coming out all out, pouring out all you had. But yesterday, I think you reserved some for today. Please, can we give an AI-generated applause? Ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it, whether you do not like it, whether I like it, whether I'm not willing to accept it, whatever my perceptions may be, whatever it may be, AI has come to stay. Please turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, AI is here to stay. Initially when it came, same way ATM came to us. ATM machine. When it came to us, when we heard the news, we heard stories that ATM came and some sort of machine was going to go into your account, check something and give you money. We say it's not possible. The machine goes somewhere, pick my money, he knows where my account is, process it, and give me money. It's not possible. Come on. But today it's everywhere. POS, we have machines everywhere now. I had friends who told me that Facebook, they would never create an account. They will never go on Facebook. Today they are there even at midnight. And so whether we like it, whether we do not like it, unless as teachers, as people, because as academics, this is university, universality of ideas. And then we are involved continuously in the transmission of factual materials from those who know to those who want to know, who are willing to know. It's a disaster, like I mentioned yesterday, when we have a case of an analog teacher teaching a digital student. It becomes a disaster. So whether we like it, whether we do not like it, as senior academics, as senior members of the university community, we must grab AI. AI has come to stay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, on this note, we want to launch the discussion session by beginning from where we stopped yesterday. We made a promise and we do not want to fail on that. Our own former principal officer, former DVC academics, Professor Uduma will be the first to make contribution because we made promise yesterday. However, I'm going to invite Professor Nitesh Chawla to please take his place, as I invite also his friend and brother to sit with him here to respond to contributions and questions. Professor Nuno, please. Professor Uduma will be the first to make contribution here. Please sit.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a really interesting lecture. But my question, I have a question, sir. Now, from the exposition and all that, it is true that the Turing test has been passed by AI, Alan Turing's test. Now the question is, does that mean that that AI is conscious? Secondly, the Turing test has been passed. Why are we bothered about the ethical issues about AI? Because a lot of ethical issues are coming up because we want a machine that will perform the same functions that human beings perform. Having passed the Turing test, why are we bothered about the issues of ethics in AI? I have two questions. The second question is, we've accepted that AI has come to stay. And of course, we know that it would we now consider content as plagiarism? Content is human generated.
Prof, just a minute, please. Maybe you take this microphone.
Thank you. I said AI has come to stay. We chorused it here. And of course, we also know that it is doing a lot to help research. In that respect, would it be right to consider AI-generated content as plagiarism? And the question is made more curious when you look at a situation where a human-generated content passes through AI, either for some modification or to help you generate questions, and it now recognizes as an AI-generated content. If you now put it out, if you look at even your own human-generated content, it's now said to be AI-generated. How do we resolve these issues in terms of plagiarism? Thank you, sir.
Plagiarism issues. Noted. Can we take?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Grace Agente is my name. Now, I want to also lend my voice to what Prof had said earlier. It was also a burning question in my heart yesterday because I was trying to wrap my head around the acceptability of AI, or Gen AI. Now, we've all agreed that AI has actually come to stay. Yes. But then I'm now trying to understand the fact that when you consider plagiarized content, now institutions or universities will tell you an allowable similarity indexed. So I'm just asking, is it not possible to also state maybe a particular percentage? Because when you try to humanize AI-generated content, or when you pass the content through some software, it will tell you if this content were AI-generated and the percentage of similarity, indexed in that content. So in that context now, I'm trying to ask, is it not possible to come up with maybe allowable percentages to say, okay, if at all you must use Gen AI, the percentage should be this range, maybe from 10 to 20 or 50 or whatever. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's only reasonable to acknowledge virtual participants. Please, can you make them available? Virtual participants, please. In case you have a contribution to make to this discussion session, please indicate by a raise of hand, and then we'll give you the opportunity to bear your mind.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I make my comments, first, I don't believe AI has come to stay. Yes.
Oh.
It will come and then it will go later, because it will certainly be replaced with something else. So, before the question, I have another thought-provoking, comment or observation based on what, the definition of AI. There seems to be a problem in that definition, and I believe that, like you made a comment, an analog teacher teaching a digital student, and you felt it was misplaced. You see, we are analog whether we like it or not. We can never be digital. We are analog. We can never be digital. Wow. Okay. This is because whether we like it or not, you are hearing me because it's analog. I'm seeing you because it's analog. I can never see you digital. You understand? Now, what I'm just trying to say is that definition of AI, I just felt that with the challenges there is because of the basic difference between the humans and the AI. The basic difference is the humans have that ability to identify or quickly identify redundancies. This is what the machine cannot do. And that is why, in an attempt to have a good definition for AI, you also have a lot of redundancies like that. That's why you have over 400 definitions. This is just by the way. What I wanted to ask, or what I need more clarification in, is that aspect where today's lecture, I did not really get it. The issue of convenience and value. You gave a lot of examples, but for me, I did not catch it. So maybe in the sentence, what were you actually trying to say at that point? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's an argument has been elicited. Whether it has come to stay, but I know those who accept the machine have more speed. I'm very, very sure about that. The speed.
Thank you so much for our lead presenters. This is a very thought-provoking lecture. I was actually curious to ask this question since yesterday. My question goes like this. What are the best practices for using AI in an ethical, responsible manner? And how can I implement these principles in my work, being a lecturer in research and teaching? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, virtual participants. Thank you, please. Do you have any hand raised? Okay. Okay, Professor Samaila Mande. Professor Samaila Mande.
Hello, good morning over there.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I want to commend the presenter and the organizers of this program. Like it's been observed over time, the world is a dynamic world. And because the world is a dynamic world, there are so many steps, innovations, development that will be cropping up. And like the other speaker said, some people say AI has come to stay. Some people are saying that no, AI has come and it will also move and fade away. No doubt about it. But as academics, we are to see AI as an aiding tool, a facilitating tool towards knowledge-driven. And so no matter what, we have to try as much as we can. As you are using AI, you should equally have a mastery of whatever AI is being generated. And so our students is not when they are using AI to generate their content or whatever, because what I've come to observe now is that you will see an AI-generated content, but the student will have difficulty to even comprehend or explain those things. We should try as much as we can, no matter what, because talking about the ethical dimension, what is ethics to you in your own client, what is maybe unethical in another person's client. And that is the more reason why talking about ethics is something that the debate and the discussion will continue to generate. But our major concern here, which is what I would want the speaker to talk about, whether there are limitations in terms of allowable percentage, because like Dr. Egendi talked about, these are things that are cropping up left and right. So that we need to have a way to handle it, because it is something that is very, very important. But to say that it has come, and we have to look at it, and then if it is a phase that will also pass out, we also see, because things are coming up on the daily basis. So, but at the moment, is a technology and a tool that is very, very essential, very critical, very important in knowledge development. On this, I want to commend you so far for what you have done and for what you are doing so far. Thank you. Over there to you people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Samaila Mande. Please.
My name is Sunday Orisakwe. I belong to the school of thought that believe that AI has come to stay. My question is, having listened to your lecture, how do we use AI to have a better census in our country, Nigeria? Because that has been a problem for some time. So how do we use AI to have a census that will be accepted by everybody?
As we take the last contribution for this session from Professor Juliet Inigbedo, Professor Nuno, and Nitesh will respond to all the comments.
Thank you. Mine is not a question. Mine is a comment. First, if you're talking about AI, AI is not new. AI has been on for decades, starting with when you are using the computer those days to generate some things using your teaching and the learning as well. And if you look at the use of AI too, it has not generated this kind of discourse when you use it for other things. It was when it was not delving into education properly that this kind of discussion came up. What we should be looking at right now is how do we navigate as educators using AI? How do we get it through with the students in teaching and learning? AI is like any other technology. Starting from the medieval age, technology has been coming up, and like somebody mentioned, the going is that another technology, higher technology may come up. But where we are now is the stage of the technology of AI. So for me, what should concern us as educators? One, what data do we get through? You know, when we speak most times, we see ourselves as only users of AI. We don't see ourselves as creators of AI. I think for higher education, if you want to get the best use of your AI, think first, how do you create data that you're going to use in working with your teaching and learning and your administrative purposes in your institution? And like one of the speakers said yesterday, he said, NOUN has a large data, which is true. So if I come to NOUN, I need to first and foremost find out what data do I need from my students? What do I need to collect from the lecturers, the workers? And you pull it together. Then you now come to teaching and learning. We work with course material. At what level do you want to use it? How do you want to use it? Then you now come to the assessment aspect. Assessment has to change. The technique for assessment has to change all over the world. It has to change. If you ask questions that I can just flip through, or I can go through the AI and it generates all the answers for me. I dub it and pull them. Then you won't get what you need. So as educators, what we need to be doing now is how to change what we do to make the student to bring in their creativity and innovation in what they do. And making the skills that is embedded in what you want to achieve using the set learning outcome for them to be able to achieve those learning outcomes. And that will work around it. And to work around this to cap it all, it has to deal with policy. The way you use AI in school A may not work effectively the way you use AI in school B. And the way you use your AI in teaching and learning in a particular country may not be exactly the same way. That is why the policy is required. Like somebody asked, what percentage should we have? That is a policy issue. That is a management issue. And before you can arrive at that, it's just like you are checking for plagiarism. You could say, okay, for this, we are going to allow for this if you are doing A, S, Y. But if you are doing this, we allow for this percentage. So what we need to do now, change our narrative. Let's change the way we think, the way we teach, the way we carry out our assessment. With that, we are good to go. And the administrators too, they are not left out. Like this morning I was discussing with somebody, how can I monitor? Because there is something we are producing. He said, can we just indicate and put there using AI, how do I know from Ministry of Education that a teacher is in the class doing what he's supposed to be doing? It's AI. You have used AI to do class management, to quiet students when they are talking, pupils of maybe between 4 to 6 years old. So I think we need to think, what do you do with AI? How do you do it? What data do you need? How do you structure it? How do you create it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the team should organize another conference and then we'll ask Professor Nibedon to be one of the facilitators. Thank you very much for that elaborate presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Prof has said most of the things I wanted to say, but I want to invite the conveners of the Intelligence Safety Research Network. I want to invite the Artificial Intelligence Ethics and Research Network members in NOUN to also take a look at the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy. Last year, the Federal Ministry of Digital Economy convened a 120-man study group. It's going to be an annual event where these workshops and trainings and discussions with the industry, the ministry, and the academics will take place. And indeed, anybody who is interested in AI. Like I said, I used to tell people AI is a vicious cycle. Today, one comes out. We're talking of chatbot, ChatGPT, talking of DeepSeek. Now, Elon Musk came out with Grok 3, and so on and so forth. Now there's a Chinese robo-AI that patrols the streets left, right, and center. So day by day, you see these guys coming up with one thing or the other. So like Prof said, the university has to inculcate in our curriculum, have small short course programs where students and staff can be enrolled to know some of these things regarding AI. And then where does the university come in? How do we ensure that responsible use of AI tools are inculcated in our system? In NOUN, we have a Center for Excellence on Technology Enhanced Learning that already has an Artificial Intelligence PhD MSc programs. The program coordinator is seated here, Professor Greg. The deputy director of the center is also here. Our students have even gone very far in producing research works that has to do with artificial intelligence in marking, online marking, proctoring, and validating student research outcomes. So please, the university should ensure that we'll invest more. They've done this training program last year with Professor Prinsloo from University of South Africa. So we should invest more in integrity AI tools and then ensure that whatever AI we are going to adopt are the ones that can help the university to foster. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, Prof, you may respond now. Please respond. Memory fades with time so that you don't forget all the questions that were raised.
So, first of all, I do need AI to help me remember every question that was asked. So, I need my own agent. So I'll start with with the question you asked about clarity between convenience and value. I was talking about convenience and productivity, right? Something that may be convenient for me to use, whether it help me do a recipe, help me order food, help me book my travel plans. It's convenient, but from a personal perspective, it makes my life easier. But from a professional workplace perspective, if I save time on tasks that, like ordering food, organizing my travel and things like that, does it also now, the time I'm saving, does that translate to increased productivity? So the hours saved, is that mean it's an hour more productive? And what we have not quite understood the equation of, how does those saved time result in more productive time? And that's the promise that AI is trying to sell for large corporations and governments, etc., that you need smaller workforce to do something because you have AI, but output still has to be the same. So just because we have AI, are we more productive to get the same level of output? So that's the conundrum that we are facing with. And then I think I'll combine the two things that, I appreciate your question on Turing test. I mean, yes and no. In the Turing test, the basic surmise of the test is, do I know if I'm talking to a human or a machine, right? So that's the barrier that may have been crossed. But then you asked a much deeper question after that. Do we believe the AI system has consciousness, right? And I don't believe it does, right? I do not believe it does, at least the AI systems that we have today, because these language models that we are interacting with, chat GPTs, etc., they do have the universe of data available. So when you ask a question of it, it probabilistically maps your question to the nearest tokens. It tokenizes it, finds the closest token it can in its memory bank, and then probabilistically finishes up a sentence. Yes, that experience feels like it's articulating like a human. That is why also we believe in its hallucinations, because its articulation is so beautiful, right? So that's what but that doesn't mean it has consciousness embedded in it, right? My biggest concerns about AI with that context right now is AI being deployed for mental health purposes, wherein there's a machine that will talk to me about my mental health situation, counsel me, etc. That is scary, because a good mental health is provided in a physical setting, human to a human, understanding that empathy, that, the minor nuances of a human behavior when having that interaction, the body language, the unspoken words often give a view into a person. And that's where that's what consciousness leads us to, right? My consciousness connecting with yours sort of gives me that understanding. So no, it doesn't have the a consciousness element. On the other side, that was asked about plagiarism, and I think both of you were asking about that. And I believe that the challenge we have with ChatGPT is, the question you asked was, if I use ChatGPT to write my paper, am I plagiarizing? The core definition of plagiarizing is, I am copying verbatim somebody's work, right? The machine that's generating the content, are we now able to, ideally we should be able to attribute it to, at this time of the day, just like when we cite MLA for websites that we access, we say, I accessed this website on this date, and that's what I'm citing because the website may change. On this date, this time, this was the query I used, this was what the OpenAI generated, and I'm using it, this text, in my literature. Is it plagiarizing on another human's published work? No. Is it plagiarizing on a textbook Is it plagiarizing on a published paper? Maybe not. But it is plagiarizing on somebody else's, in this case, a machine's output. Right? So we have to define these expansion of a definition of plagiarism. We have to update our MLA APA citation formats to say this is how ChatGPT created work must be referenced. Does it need to be in quotations? The challenge with ChatGPT generated, again, because it's probabilistic, you and I could ask the same question. I showed you with the definition of AI, right? Same ChatGPT thing gave me two different answers. The llama, again, I'm using ChatGPT just as an example. So these are approximate retrievers. These are not perfect databases. So I agree fully that plagiarism has to be considered, but it's also on us to define and educate the students about plagiarism, and if they are using it as a research tool, just as they may use any other published article, explaining to them how they may cite it, how they may include it, how they may quote it, etc. So that sort of is the plagiarism, at least in my opinion, the plagiarism conundrum. And then I think there was another question that was asked about. There was a few questions. How to use AI for the census data? Now that is brilliant, right? A use case that you may deploy it for in Nigeria. What you have identified is in Nigeria, census data is not reliable. Could we create AI tools or imaging or satellite images or citizen voice systems or better mobile technology uses to collect pictures and everything else, to collect everything that we can about residents in Nigeria so we can begin to paint a better census picture of this. Now that could be an excellent application of these tools from a census context perspective as well. So yes, I think it's in, I don't understand how you do the census today, whether it's everybody goes to everybody's house, knocks at the door, asks questions, or you send a paper-based form and people have to answer it. First question that you have to ask yourself is my census poor because of my poor data collection? So my data collection is poor because of A, B, C, D reasons. Can I also get some satellite imaging, Google Maps data, and things like that to understand densely some populated regions and do some better sampling to get that? Once that collection is done, then can I have a much better informed census data? And the reason I'm saying is get images, video, audio, text data, generated text data, not generated data. You don't want to generate humans for census, but text. The large language models today have the capability to deal with multimodal data. You can bring in all kinds of data, just like what we're doing for the Colombian project. So absolutely, I think it's going to be an excellent use case from that scenario. What other questions we are missing? Can you remind me? Assessment of AI systems. Assessment in education. So I think those, we discussed this. Say that again? Yes. The best practices of using AI in an ethical, I feel that, and by the way, what I would also say is that, the questions that we are asking about AI, how it could be, by the way, I do agree that AI is here to stay, but I also agree that it'll keep metamorphizing itself. The version that we have invited in our house will keep changing, keep getting better, but the family will grow. AI family will grow and is here to stay. It's not leaving. Whatever new technologies come, AI would be a core engine behind it. So how, in an ethical, responsible way, I feel that's where what we're talking about, even I'll combine the other question on assessment as well. We have to also ask, let's sort of back up for a second, right? We are saying AI is bad in an ethical, responsible way, but it's the human who's copying from the AI, taking the AI system output and not citing and plagiarizing it, right? How do we first teach our humans to behave in an ethical, responsible way in how they are conducting research and getting sources of data? The AI is going to do what you ask it to do, but it's the human which is at the interplay. And this is where we have to inculcate in our classrooms what is an ethical use or deployment of AI. What are the considerations? So when we, I mentioned to you in my presentation, the iThreads program that we have on socially responsible and engaged data science or AI, where we work with the student groups. Before they start doing any actual implementation of a system, they go through the process of thinking about what is the responsible, ethical way of solving this problem. What could go wrong? What could be the guardrails? We have to incorporate those things in our curricular engagement without an expectation that every human will behave in an ethical, responsible way, because if that were the case, the world would be very different, right? But the challenge in front of us is, even independent of these AI systems, we have to teach our students what is an ethical, responsible way of governance of using technology, whichever form and way the technologies will happen. And with AI, their access to information, knowledge, generation of text, generation of answers is becoming even easier. So we have to inculcate in them, if you're using it, use it. Tell us how you use it, cite it, don't plagiarize it, because we have defined to you what plagiarism rules are. The challenge we have is that there is no software today that I can use Authenticate, Turnitin, etc. to check plagiarism of my text with published papers. You know, Gen AI answers are not published entities, so I cannot use Turnitin or Authenticate, etc. So we have to rely on the underlying principles that student is following. So we have to constantly remind them, make that part of the education experiences from day one, and attach assessments as well. That how are we assessing your learning outcomes, knowing very well that you will be using these AI tools. Yesterday he talked about the analog teachers, and I think even our friend over there, I appreciated your very passionate exposition about how AI and what the responsibility NOUN has as a university. It's on us to first recognize whether we tell our students to use or not to use, they will use it. Is a fact. We can keep fighting, we can keep pretending that no, they won't. They will tell us they are not, but they will be using it. They are using it. So now let's keep that assumption in mind. Our job is to teach them concepts of whatever material that we are teaching. They are going to use these AI tools for assessment, summative or formative assessment that we may do as part of a class. They may use these AI tools. So that comes as a learning outcome measurement. But their learning is in the analog experience that we are offering, although with NOUN you're delivering that analog experience in a digital world, but it's that hasn't changed. The challenge I feel we have as educators is, how do I evaluate that they have learned what I taught them? How do I evaluate that they are thinking as I want them to think? How do I evaluate that in my class, if they are using these AI tools, they are citing it properly, they are not just plagiarizing it? I'm able to evaluate them for their creativity, for their critical thinking, for their problem-solving skills, for their teamwork, for their collaboration. How do I evaluate and create assessments? What I teach them is not changing. What's changing is my formative and summative assessments. And I'll pass it to NOUN if he wants to add in.
a few notes, two separate things. First, I completely agree on how to approach and the description that Nitesh was giving in terms of developing responsible and ethical AI. I would just add this. In my mind, the way to approach this is one of humility. We must constantly fight, especially those that have intricate knowledge and experience in AI. Our colleague Tom Stapleford works a lot on this. We need to be conscious that whenever you're developing an AI tool, an AI system, an AI-based solution for something, we as computer scientists are likely not the most informed people in the room about the problem. We are concerning the AI part, not necessarily the problem. So how do you build ethical and responsible AI? You look at methods, and you keep in mind that every situation is different. That's why you surround yourself with people from other disciplines that can help you guide through reaching out to the communities and learning from them and really zooming in on what they want to achieve from it. That's why you work with those people, trying to understand what are the goals, how do you define them, how do you evaluate success, what does success look like for those communities. And throughout all of that process, you need to engage more than just the AI focus. And I think, and I really do believe, that's the primary foundation to build ethical and responsible AI. And I just want to add one thing in terms of assessment. A few years ago, I was having a lively debate over dinner with a philosopher friend of mine in Portugal. He's from philosophy, he works in an education school. I was asking him about his perspective on how education has evolved. And this is mainly motivated by the assessment discussion. And thank you for your passionate intervention. It brought me back to that discussion, which is when we look at the evolution of education and mainly the balance of forces, one might say, about going about between students, educators, and resources. Things have evolved massively over, let's say, 70 years, just to mark it with the coining of the term of AI. We went from scarce resources, all-powerful educators, that your access to education was very limited. And so educators were held as the fountain of knowledge. You go there, you listen to that precious knowledge, you learn from them, you grow. And we evolved to, and thankfully, to a massification of education that led to some decision making that we can obviously discuss. We went from what some would consider subjective evaluation, very centered on the professor's opinion of what is right and what is wrong, to, for example, a lot of standardized testing. So it's no longer about your unique perspective, but about you fulfilling a series of standardized testing on your knowledge and making sure that you check the boxes in that particular way in terms of confirming that you have that knowledge so you move on. It seems that the really big difference now is that with this new reality of AI, we really need to make sure that our students ingrain this in their mind. Just because an AI system allows them to get information on anything, that doesn't mean that they know, that they have knowledge on it. And this is the tricky part. And I think it just comes back to what we were discussing yesterday. What is the value of education? What is the value of an educator in the AI age? How do you assess knowledge, and how do you assess progress? How do you assess education, or the education that you're having? These are all open, I'll be honest, these are all open questions to me. But one thing that I practice in terms of preach and practice, I really wish when I'm giving a course, for example, my main wish is that my students go out of that figurative room more well-rounded. It's not just about they learn something specifically about this course, but we engage them in discussions where they group. They learn something new. They learn from other colleagues. And personally, I rely a lot on asking them for their personal opinion, for their subjective opinion, which kind of runs contrary to this very standardized testing. I mean, I get why it evolved towards that. My feeling and my idea is that we may need to review that. And I know what I'm asking. It's basically an uphand of how we as industry or the right or the big challenge of education operate. I have no final kind of mental note or mental schema on how to go about this, but I know that it's not going backwards to the fully subjective, very educator-centric, I know everything and you just need to listen. But it's not all, it's also not this of fully standardized knowledge. This is where machines excel, actually. The standardization, the standardized testing era is where AI excels. And we also need to ask that question on what is our value? Like, what are we teaching? What are our hopes for the students that are coming out of the university, and where should we be working to push them towards? That's
Thank you very much. You'll agree with me that it's really been engaging and interacting, and time is of essence. If not, we'll continue to take contributions, going to take questions. Virtual participants and those who are here physically, we appreciate all your contributions, but we cannot continue now because I know that concentration for some of us may begin to drop now, and it's just a matter of health. It shows that we are really healthy because I know that the powerhouse, the mitochondrion, contains adenosine triphosphate molecules. My teacher told me when it begins to drop, your concentration will be affected. You feel tired. It shows you are healthy. If you are not having this experience now, you may need to see your doctor. And that's why we are going to have breakfast now. We're going to have tea break. And I want to say thank you, Professor Nitesh Chawla. Thank you, Professor Nuno, for responding promptly to these questions. And thank you for all your contributions. Like it was mentioned earlier, our engagement is going to not just with senior management, as stated there in the program, but with all participants. So we're going to return to very serious engagement as we continue to bear our mind and share our thoughts on the ongoing conversation around AI, use of AI, our perceptions, acceptance of the AI technology. Thank you very much. Please, another round of AI-generated applause. So tea break now.